Assalamu alaikum everyone. Hello, how's it going? It's Nageeb Khalifa. I'm the CEO and founder of Sudanpreneur Hub Limited. So we've had a little bit of a break, celebrated our New Year's, and also had my surgery and had to wait for my aunt to heal. But now we're back. Hopefully, everyone's excited about tomorrow with Valentine's Day. So those of you that are single, hopefully you find love tomorrow. And those of you that are not single, hopefully you find love tomorrow. And those of you that aren't looking for love, Khadija, my little cousin, Wagwan, how are you? Salamat. Rayan Kefik. So basically, we're going to be doing. So some of you might have tuned in earlier to my earlier live that I did like about 10-15 minutes ago. So what I was telling people is I just needed to charge my phone for a little bit, and then also that's what I like to hear. Khadija, tell your mom I say hi, and your dad as well. See, Khadija is not only like my cousin, but guess what, her dad and me, we both have the same name. It's the Ashraf gang in the house. So yeah, so this episode we're going to be talking about my dad. So I also mentioned this earlier, if you guys didn't join in earlier, this is going to be like a bit of news to you. But I'm assuming a lot of you are like expecting me to do like a Instagram live with my dad and, ask him a bunch of questions. And also, I think also a lot of you didn't realize that was my dad. Some of you did, some of you didn't. But unfortunately, we're not going to be doing no interview with no dad. So basically the first thing, like if you see podcast series, that means it's like just me talking about someone, all right? But if there's like a live in the title, like interview, then it's an interview. And the main reason why we're not doing it is because my dad, even though he's all gangster, he's like, hip and urban, he's not fresh, but he doesn't really, mess about with Instagram that much. He's got an Instagram, but no. But what he is big on, he's big on Facebook, so I'm pretty sure I can convince him to do a Facebook Live. But, the biggest thing is that I told you guys a long time ago, like maybe about 3 months ago, is that people in Sudan, their internet is terrible, right? So my dad is part of you guys, the people of Sudan. فيعني معلش يا جماعة صعبة إنه نعمل لكم لايف معاه لأنه ممكن نقول لي أيوة الكهرباء قاطعة أو الكهرباء قطعت قبيل وما شحنت تلفوني أو ممكن نقول لي هنا الشبكة ذاتها الكهرباء فيه لكن الشبكة ذاتها نازلة أو ممكن نقول لي يعني انتوا براكم بتعرفوا الأعذار حقاتكم يا سودانيين. But anyways, so my dad, so my father's name is, well, we'll start off where he was born. That's how you normally start with introducing people. So my dad was born on the 23rd of September 1952. And then in the year 1952, it was a special year because in Egypt, there was a revolution and they got rid of the king. So back in the day, well, basically not back in the day, but in 1952, they had a king called the King Farouk. And what happened was they did a revolution and then they got rid of him and they put someone in power who was the first president. His name was, well, not really president because, he was part of the military. But his name is Mohammed Nageeb, right? So my dad, his name is Mohammed Nageeb, right? And then in the passport, my dad's born a year later, all right? And then my dad, he's got 4 brothers. He's number 4. So his older brother is called Sami. But Sami is also a Muhammad Sami as well. And then number 2 is Kamal, Amu Kamal, and my brother's named after Amu Kamal. Then number 3 is Amu Hashim, and then my dad's number 4. And then my youngest uncle, his name is Amu Sadiq, right? So my dad studied in Sudan, right? We live in Al-Mulazmin, so that's where my dad was raised. And his school, في بيت الأمانة, alright? So he used to walk to school until he got to high school, and then he graduated. And then امتحن الثانوي. And then my dad went to AUB, American University of Beirut. And originally, back in that time, my dad wanted to do medicine, so he went to AUB and he started studying medicine, okay? And then so he went to uni in like 1974 or 73 or something, like around that time. And what happened was there was like the Lebanese civil war, so my dad had to get evacuated, had to leave. Also, I want to ask you guys if you can hear me very well, because I see the Wi-Fi, the screen froze on my side. Anyways, let me know. Right. Let me know if it froze as well or not. Yeah, so the war happened in Lebanon, and then my dad was like, I have to get out of here. Or actually, no, he actually tells me about this funny story about the war. So he tells me like the day the war broke out, him and his friend, they actually went to Cyprus, and that's the day the war broke out. So they actually had no idea there was a war. And then basically they ended up going back to Lebanon, and then they had to leave because it was like, war zone, So he went back to Sudan, and then he decided, where am I going to go next? Where am I going to study? And then one of his friends was like, oh, you know what? I'm studying in Spain. Why don't you come to Spain? Sounds good. Tamam, shukran ya Yusuf. فشفتوا يا جماعة. So basically, he went to Spain and he studied business management. And then in the American university, it's called Schiller University. It's in Madrid. And then after 4 years, he graduated. And then he moved to the same university, but the one in France. And then he did his MBA. And then originally he wanted to go do a PhD, so he went to America. So he was studying in Washington. And then after like a year, he realized that, he doesn't really want to study, But he ended up applying for one of his dream jobs. So he got a job offer from the World Bank. And then when he called his brother to tell him about the news, so he decided that at the moment it's better for him to come back to Sudan and look after the family, So just before he left, he asked them what he should do. They were like, yep, just go work for one of the UN organizations, and then when you when you finish with your family situation and you're able to come back to America, just let us know, and we'll hook you up with a job. So then he ended up going back to Sudan, and then he started working for UNICEF, and basically he ended up for the next 32 years of his life he was working for UNICEF, and then he retired in 2010, and then he started a company with one of his friends, and then one of the first projects he's got, they're planning to build. So his company is called Idara Limited, and basically one of the projects. So for those of you that don't know, my mom, her grandfather was Babi Kid Bedri, so he opened Ahfad School and Ahfad University. So my dad, with his partner, they went to this company and they brought up the idea of building a teaching university hospital for Ahfad University. So that's inshallah, so long as Sudan stabilizes a little bit, and there's a little bit of economic stability and political stability, and inshallah it will happen. But my dad's been working on this project since 2012, and then there's also he's working on some agricultural projects as well. So hopefully, I don't know if you've heard of something called dry pivot irrigation system, but it's basically the technology that Al-Mara'i uses. So it's growing crops in the desert. And then another project he worked on, so my baby bro, I don't really like to talk about it too much because it's not my story, but my brother, he had cancer, and then my dad decided to write a book about the whole situation. Now at least I can talk about it a little bit. But my dad wrote the book, and then he gave it to Ahfad University. And so all the proceeds that are raised from the book go straight to the university. What else can I say? So me and my dad, we're best friends. He's we have a very similar personality. We get along very well. I mean, he's definitely funnier than me, and he's a little bit more low-key, chilled out, but he's also more strategic, For me, I'm more flashy and flamboyant and impulsive and like to party a bit too much, And then my mom, she's more conservative and traditional. And then also there's three of us. I've got my baby bro, Kamal, and I've got my older sister, Sadia. And then we're like very similar in age, and then we're only a year and a half apart. And yeah, my brother's a chef, and my sister she's in the FGM social support charity sector. Okay, though. At the moment, I think she's working for Mind, which is a mental health charity here that's like global. Well, not global. I mean national. So it's like based in London, and Manchester, Liverpool, and Leeds, and York. My sister lives up in Manchester, and then my dad, as I told you guys earlier, he's based in Sudan, and then me and my mom and my brother were based in London. Yeah, so I know that was like quite a quick, story. What I can show you is this. All right, this is what actually. All right, so basically, you guys know my website. So it's Sudanpreneur. All right, so all of these are like my Sudanpreneur profile personalities. So I've got loads of them, but I'll just read you my dad's one. So then at least that way. All right. You can see if my memory matches up with what is written down. All right. So Muhammad Nageeb Khalifa was born fourth of five brothers in Omdurman. He finished his studies and went to pursue his university education at the American University of Beirut. Due to the breakout of civil war, Nageeb Khalifa moved to Spain to finish education, graduating with a major in business from Schiller University, while also working as a teaching assistant. He then transferred to Paris branch of Schiller and did his MBA. He then moved to America to pursue a PhD before deciding to move into the working world. He managed to get a job at the World Bank before having to turn it down for family reasons and move back to Sudan. Right. In Sudan, he started working for UNICEF in the Khartoum office for several years, including spending time as acting head before moving to open the UNICEF Chad country office. A career spanning 30 years, with time spent in Chad, Indonesia, Kenya, Jordan, Denmark, and with retirement. At the time of retirement, he was the Chief Operations Officer for MENA region. Following retirement, he set up a company with a partner in London called Idara Consultancy. All right. What I'm going to try to do for you guys is do an interview with my dad, and then I'll do a second part of this podcast where I can go into more detail about sort of his work in the UN, what he did, how it sort of, impacted on me personally, but also on like my family. And then, yeah, so stay tuned for part 2. But I'm going to do a few other interviews with other people before I do that. If you want to, get an interview or be interviewed or nominate someone, message me. And then the other thing as well, don't forget, we've got our 3rd edition of the newsletter coming out soon. So if you guys want to, place an advert or a contribution or send us a photo or some artwork, give us a shout. All right. Okay, my phone is freezing up a little bit, so I'm gonna end the live here, and then I will be able to share the live, because I'm scared. Sometimes if you don't end the live, sometimes you lose it. But thank you guys very, very much for all the support and the love and everything. All right.